It's a journey, y'all. It's called The Journey Within. That's what my friend said to me. She said,
Genius.
there's no greater journey than the journey within.
Yo, what's good, Soul Tribe? What's good? What's good? Honestly, I'm excited. This is my first reading in a foreign location. But yeah, let's keep going, yeah? Let's do the absolute most. I hope it's amazing. I hope you're doing well, keeping swell. Anyways, I've got a pre-pull over here, and I think the message is coming through very clearly as to what it is that we need to do. Ultimately, hey, the word ultimately, like the door to spirit has opened up. And when I think about the door to spirit having opened up, right, I'm thinking about how we are ultimately being led to a greater path, a spiritual fulfilling path, a path that is much more spiritually inclined, that involves more spiritual guidance as well as intervention, as well as service. But with me even looking at this card, it's like a door has opened into the galaxy, into the divine. Ultimately, is what I'm seeing over here. And look at that, it's number 32, and that number's been chasing me like yesterday, the day before, today. Like this number's just all around. Usually it's like 33, but 32's been like following up on me. So with this door to spirit being opened up, I'm also seeing like in this card it's like it's like a white dove that's like flying out this door, like all of these like stars and like feathers, and I don't know, like just all of these white little dots in its wake. Actually, yeah, it is feathers. But again, like I was saying, it's like it's coming out of this universe and it's coming into this universe. So it's like that door to spirit has actually opened up, and the door is a golden door. And the last few readings I've been talking about us being in like a golden era and stuff. So it's like, the biggest part of this golden era is this unlocking of what's actually happening with our spirit team, our soul tribe, whatever it is that you believe in, whatever it is that you feel is like, who you pray to, what you view as the higher power, source, universe, you know what I mean? Like that's what's happening. But a greater connection, a greater level of understanding, a greater level of involvement, collaboration. I'm even getting co-manifestation as well. That's like really coming up. But to add to this, while this door to spirit is opening, there are other things that are needing to be like acknowledged, and for that I've got 3 cards in the reverse, and the first one being the world in reverse, right? And that is 29. I've got appreciation in reverse, and that is 15, right? And then I've also got door to value in reverse, and that is 31. So how interesting that we have all of these now popping up like this, right? It's like with us now following this path to spirit, this door to spirit, the world as we know it, our lives, our structures, everything that we once thought of, this current phase or chapter that we're in is actually coming to a close. Because it's like, imagine finding out that you've been living a lie, or living in a matrix this whole time. Oh, I'm seeing these lights above me flashing, and you end up realizing that it was a false reality. It wasn't actually true. It wasn't the best thing for you or for this new era, for this door to open. Your world needed to change completely, right? The next part is the appreciation in reverse. It's to say, I always say like what we appreciate appreciates. But another thing to consider now is to say like, we are not going to appreciate the falsehoods, the falsities, the version, the story, the ways that are not serving anymore, because we are now appreciating that old version of us that needs to be unalived, 408 or 408 or 48, I'm not sure, one of the two. But like, we are not going to appreciate that version of ourselves that needed to be unalived, that needed to be let go of, right, and left behind. So definitely not something that we need to do. I'm even thinking right now like how dude, like my right ear's going off, right? How I would always tell myself that I'm not going to work on Sundays, but for some reason I felt so drawn to doing this reading today. And I think like if I ever do feel led to doing something, it must very much be spirit led. because there I was thinking like, okay, I want to do a message for the collective, and Spirit's like, I bet, let's go. And then now here's my ear ringing, it's going off. It's like, yo, dude, here you are starting this thing, and what does it feel like? And it feels like it's different. It definitely feels like it's different, because on the other side of that, which is this door to value, right? If you know that where you're planting your seeds, where you're being led to, is actually not where you're supposed to go, where you're supposed to be, see. Oh goodness gracious. You know what, I'm actually gonna stop this. I'm just gonna take a picture and we'll resume. Okay, I hear you, Spirit. We gotta stop. But yo, what are you saying actually? Using that as an example only, or are you saying I should stop? Or okay, so there's two parts to this, right? One part of it is like how 611, how I've always felt like, well, not always felt like, but since I've been acknowledging like the Sabbath, what's going on with me in my head right now is like, okay, on Sabbath days I don't work, right? And when I say I don't work, is in like this, like the Bible verse that says like how to acknowledge the Sabbath, meaning like you don't cook, you don't actually work, you don't do anything of that nature, right? And now the question now becomes, if I'm feeling led to doing this reading, right, and getting this message out from Spirit, but then I'm also viewing it as work, then how does this door to Spirit stay open? Because Spirit is always with me, like all the time. I'm always channeling, I'm always receiving messages, and me being of service. The question is now, do I view that as work? That's the one part. But I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna continue. But I think there's something about that here within this message in the collective, is to say like, the thing that you are being called to do, right? As much as it's a door to Spirit that's opening up, is it like, using me as the example, is your service to the divine, to your spiritual team, to following your truest desires, like what your heart really wants, does it feel like work, and does it allow you to still acknowledge that other things the Spirit is asking you to do? Because when I think about the intention of the Sabbath, I'm thinking about it as to how it was meant for us to actually just get into Spirit time, get into ourselves, tune back in, because we would have spent like the first like 6 days of the week working and stuff. So after having done all of that work, then it's like, okay, what is it that you're actually gonna do to like come back to yourself, meditate, come back into a state or a place where you are, what can I say, like, in coherence all over again. So now I'm thinking to myself like, oh crap, like if me doing a reading gets me into a state of coherence, and my work is actually of service, and it is opening the door to Spirit, then it's our perception, it's our view of our service that needs to change, right? And us understanding that to do what God is asking us to do what we are being called to do, we need to like follow God's instruction, source, divine, Spirit, angels, guardians, ancestors. Again, like you know what resonates with you. But whenever we are being called to do something, then we need to like acknowledge that, okay, this is my gift, and our gifts are not ours. Our gifts are meant to be of service. They're meant to be used for people. And I think now I'm even being led to like think about how, if God, universe, source, our guides tell us to do something, even when we think it's not the right thing to do, how much can we trust that we should actually follow that path and do what it is that they say? For example, I would like play back this thought in my mind to say like, yo, if anybody ever asked me to come like do a conference or do some kind of work on a Sunday, I would tell them that like, no, I'm not gonna do it, because acknowledging the Sabbath. But then I think about somebody like a pastor or a priest, right? They are working on a Sunday, but then they're doing spiritual work, but then they're not going to do the work of the world. Oh, wow. I see you, Spirit. I see you. I see you. So it's a matter of saying, like, oh, you see how it all comes back now. You see how it all comes back now. Yeah? Like, this daughter spirit is a separation from the things of this world, because we can no longer glorify the things of this world, because now the real question is, what value are we getting from that, you know? What is it that we are gaining from that, when we know that the things of this world will leave behind, but what we gain spiritually, what we mature in spiritually, what we like achieve in that sense is eternal. It lasts long. I mean, you could be living now in this carnation, but then once you ascend or transcend, you could become an ancestor, and those knowledges or those learnings still remain with you, and you can actually still use those things. But then the things that you have on earth, you're going to leave them here on earth. So are we going to appreciate the things that are seen, or are we going to start appreciating the things that are unseen? And what is our perception of value, you know? Because, you know, what's that saying, like, money is the root of all evil, or there was something else that was coming to mind, like money is power, or the perception of money. Okay, it's a matter of saying, like, we have been driven to like pursue money, right? And think of money as like this, like God, this big energy that we need to pursue. But again, it's like, are we gonna glorify money or make money like a false idol? Like, you get what I mean? Like, in the sense of, what is true value? What is true wealth? And can we even now see the wealth in ourselves, in what we are doing? You know what I mean? Like, wealth of the mind, which would be like peace, you know, wealth of the heart, which would be like, you know, an open heart, a loving heart. But you get what I'm saying? Like, wealth of the spirit, meaning that, you know, you are in tune, you are being of service, you are, you know, you're following your divine purpose, you know. So this value that is this door to value, while I look at it in different ways, like I'm saying right now, I'm leaning very much towards it being of the worldly nature and the things in this world that are perpetuated. Like, yeah, you gotta chase money, you gotta chase the bag, and you know, there's even that crossroads between, like, let's say for example, like as a creative, like, do you follow your creative path, or do you follow like the safe path and go work for someone? Because while you follow the spiritual path or the creative path, there will be, like, you know, trials and tribulations, especially when it comes to money. Or, well, not will be, but for most creatives, most spiritual people, that's actually what happens. But then it's a matter of saying, you've trusted in it enough, so much so that you are willing to put in the work and allow it to build. Whereas you could have, on the other side, taken the safer route, taken like a job opportunity that had the money, but then it took you away from investing in what was truly fulfilling to you, what was your true passion, what was truly like nurturing to you and what it is that you wanted to achieve. You know? Oh my gosh, it's so hot. Yo, man, this Ethiopian weather, goodness gracious, gang. But we out here repping, man. Like, exactly, the spiritual work don't stop, right? When I'm cold, and I definitely felt led to doing that. And you see, now I shouldn't let my thoughts of worldly service or worldly work take me away from my spiritual work, because I mean, I even had to sit with it for a minute. You saw that, right? Because I was like, okay, should I stop? Should I what? And then they like started unpacking, because again, spirit is always with us, no matter where we are. Whether I'm home, whether I'm here, whether you are home, whether you're there, or you know, wherever you're at. It's a matter of saying, like, if you can just spend that time listening and tuning in, you'll definitely get your answer, right? But yeah, that's definitely, I think, such a wow and interesting and powerful way to bring in this message, to say the daughter spirit is opening, and the world as we know it, all the things that were perpetuated or elevated about the world, are now being shifted, and our view or perspective of what value truly is being brought to the forefront, so that we can change that, so that we can step into the new world, the new appreciation, and the new value, which is what's on the other side of the store of spirit, right? All right, so over here, the first two cards I have, so it looks like I've got a situation, right? With the first two cards, I've got two court cards, which is the Queen of Swords and then Knight of Wands. Then just below that, it looks like this is what we're being asked to take on or do about this situation, because I've got those just below, which is now the Ace of Pentacles and then the Knight of Pentacles. So that is like the first leg or the first column of this reading, right? In the second column, above, I've got 10 of Swords, and below that I've got 9 of Swords, and that is crossed by the 7 of Cups. So that looks like this is the intermediary, this transition. I think I was actually starting to speak about it now as I was speaking to like into the mind, how do you view things, and I think that's definitely what we're going to get into, especially with relation to our spiritual gifts. That's the middle column, or the middle part of the message, and then the last part of the message. Above I have 6 of Cups, and below that I have the Knight of Cups. You know, as I'm just noticing it now, literally, like, look at all these knights. You know, I mean, the only knight that we don't have here is the Knight of Swords. Oh my gosh, I actually have a Knight of Swords. Oh, yeah, no, that's the King of Swords. But yeah, I don't have a Knight of Swords over here. That's interesting. But 3 knights popped out. But anyway, that's going to be the last leg of the reading, and I think, as we can see, with both of them being cups, 6 of Cups, Knight of Cups, very much in our feelings, you know, very much about, you know, the offerings here. You know, if I'm thinking about how the Knight of Cups are at the beginning of this reading and at the end of this reading, it's a matter of saying, like, you know, as we know with knights are in motion, they're in movement, and it's about those actions, those situations, how they are playing out, and our energy or contribution to them, or like an aspect or an attribute that we need to recognize within one of these nights, so that we can bring about this new day. You know, there I am, this new world, because we're saying in nights, right? Nights isn't an actual night, but nighttime. So starting with the first one over here, Queen of Swords and Knight of Wands. You know, just first quick thought is, you know, the truth comes at a cost. And as the Knight of Wands, this is like now moving ahead with your passion, working on your reality, like moving ahead with what it is that you actually want to be in your world now. Because the truth is, you know, I think with me even reading for this collective, we are all spiritual beings, we are all light workers, starseeds, chosen ones, shamans, healers. You get the vibe, like we're in that spectrum. So the truth here is the acceptance of who we are and our gifts. You know, something that has also come to mind for me is like how swords, you know, as much as I like would often speak to how these are like relating to truth, lies, being swift, you know, knowledge, wisdom. It recently came to me, like, you know, for me watching another reader, that, you know, the swords, because it's in the mind, it's also about the crown, and it's about our spiritual gifts. And, you know, this being the first card coming out being the Daughter Spirit, all of these swords here for me are coming through as, you know, a recognition of that spiritual aspect of it and our gifts and how we manage our gifts, right? So you know, it's so beautiful, like how the more time I even spend with tarot, like my understanding and my interpretation of the cards like evolves over time, whether it's something that I discover or uncover by myself, or something that I hear and then I start to like ponder on it, like with this information I'm sharing with you now, and then I start to apply it and I realize like, oh shit, actually that makes so much sense. Because we can literally tell any story with tarot. Like, it's just a matter of like putting the cards in a certain order or fashion, right? And I very much look forward to like actually starting my workshop and teaching people about it, because that's even one of the things that I know is like, oh shit, me knowing my truth is like, yo dude, you have a gift for reading and you read accurately. People want to be guided by the things that you're saying. You are a leader, so why not do that? So if that's my truth, how I'm going to shape my reality is by making that possible. How do I structure things in such a way that I actually do have a workshop that I'm teaching people. Other part of that is to say, here it is, the truth comes at a cost. I'm in service of spirit. I'm gonna work on a day that I deem as world work, but it's spiritual work. Spiritual work is happening all the time. Like we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So when does spirit switch off? Like, do we even think spirit's gonna switch off? Like, that never happens. But then it's that connection between spiritual work and worldly work that we need to now better understand. So it's a matter of like, now I'm thinking, it's like, yo, spirit's using me so much, and it's like I'm even like processing my own things as I'm speaking to you. It's like I can do this reading now, but I'm not about to like do the worldly part of it, which is like, you know, preparing the upload and doing all of that mumbo jumbo, like, you know, preparing my description, timestamps, all of that. That I need to do on a different day, because that's a worldly thing. But the message, the download, that's the spiritual thing. So I'm not going to hold spirit back. So coming back to us now in the collective and applying this message. And of course, spirit likes to use me as the example. What truth is it about your life that you need to recognize that is going to increase your connection with spirit? But then also, what action do you take to further implement this thing within your reality, cement it within your reality in such a way that, okay, I'm still good for time. Hey man, I gotta make it to the next, you know, lounge. Because, hey, you know what, spirit got me in luxury right here. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you know what, there's so much to appreciate right now. Oh my gosh, like, it was so unexpected. I didn't expect that, but you know what? Oh, goodness. Dropped the card. Oh, two of them actually. But it's like, you know, make it part of your reality, make it part of your lounge, because your lounge is a place where you relax, where you chill. Like, you've got the things that mean the most to you, and you put them together in such a way that you know, it's like you have a setup. You have your nice teas, you have your, like, your amenities, yes. You know, all the things that you need to access, the things that you need, like your toolkits, the things that you need to live your truth, the spiritual path, whatever it is that you need to follow. Like, what is it that you need to put within your reality such that, you know what, whenever you think about like driving ahead or pursuing what it is that you need to pursue, you can actually do it. 2, 2, 3. So you know, an example in my case is like, I'm traveling, but I still have like my things to record. I still have my cards. So it's like I'm creating opportunities for spirit to use me so that I can be of service. So that's me having set up the tools. So in your case, your business, your ideas, your passions, that thing that's calling you, that's driving you, like, yo, I have to do this more often. Are you putting yourself in a position where you can always do it? You know, I'm even thinking about how, like, you know, whenever I travel outside of now, like, I usually pack like my laptop and like something to make music with, but this time I didn't, because I understood that there's a different type of work that's happening right now. It's an internal work and this work happening here. So the music is still happening. I mean, there's like a bunch of new songs that I've written, some of that I've recorded one already, but like, yo, that's gonna happen at its own time, right? But wow, Spirit's like really using me as an example today. Yo, dude. But it's fine, like, I get it. I can also relate to this message. But again, yeah, the truth comes at a cost, and we need to recognize that for us to keep this door to Spirit open, it comes with its own values, you know, with its own riches, with its own resources. And once we set up our reality to align or abide with that, we're gonna start seeing what's happening. And that follows very well into the next two cards, which is just below that in the first row, right? Or first column, which is now the Ace of Pentacles and the Knight of Pentacles. So it's like, yo, how are we gonna actually like bring in this new era, you know, this new world? Because I'm thinking about Pentacles like being a circle. You know, this new abundance, this new opportunity, these new ideas. How are we thinking that our lives are gonna change when we are not moving ahead on those actions, those ideas, and those intuitions, those, you know, those things of this earth? Because you see, here's this connection between spiritual reality and then the things of the earth. So it's like these four cards came in the first set because of actually what's happening, right? It's to say, like, okay, well, you can see all of them right there, but it's like a matter of saying, like, these two came all in the first grouping to say that this is a connection, this is a collaboration, you know, the physical, the spiritual, us being like, you know, the conduits, or like the ones in the physical body, because it's like the manifestation happens through us, because our guides are there, but then we are the vessels, we are the conduits for it to like pass through, you know. What's this word, man? When you are the other, like, yes, conduit is a good word, but there's another word that I was thinking about. Not scapegoat. Shit. Yeah, but there's another word, man, when you are the one that's like used for something. And conduit's very close to it. But anyways, it's like, yo, this new blessing, this new abundance, this new opportunity, this new idea, it's already here, right? And it's just gonna come through from us having done our absolute best to move ahead. And it looks like, you know, with me even seeing it as the Knight of Pentacles, that it does take time, it does take effort, it does take consistency. You know, an example that I can use in my case is to say, like, I know that my channel right now doesn't have like the most views, but because these readings are timeless, it'll get to a point where somebody sees this and the message is actually like at its peak, you know. I mean, like the energy is ready to be received by like my tribe, the greater audience, and it's actually been found by those people. So it's like, if I was so focused on the number of views, the number of likes, does that mean now I stop being of service because it's not reaching the people that it needs to reach yet? Or do I continue knowing that I'm actually planting seeds that are going to reap later on? And same with like songs, music, artwork, right? Even you like putting time and effort towards your dream, your business, or whatever it is that Spirit is leading you to pursue. It's like you plant all those seeds, and in the right season, with the right nurturing of the soil, you can now harvest, because when it's your time, it's your time. I mean, can you imagine like in, you know, the year 2020, when we were all going through like these funny things in the world, where there were some businesses that were like poised or positioned to succeed. Like, imagine if you already had like face masks and you were just like normal business running, but as soon as that era came, you like, whew, you skyrocketed, because now everybody wants face masks, and you are just like pumping these things out. You see what I mean? And all this time you did have a market, you know, all the people who were using face masks all along. But once the need becomes known to the greater world, all those times that you stayed consistent and persistent, they're gonna pay off at a later stage. And it's, again, you already had the product, which is you already have the Ace of Pentacles, but can you stick with it? Can you continue with it, knowing that, you know, the people who really need it are gaining from it, and as more people find it, as more people need it, you will already be there to be of service. And you actually, having been there for so long, now come across as like an expert, as a subject matter leader or expert within that space, within that industry, because of how long you've been there and the efforts that you put towards it. So I think that's super powerful, man. I really think that's really dope. So, you know, just like putting all of these cards together, you are, you know, I'm thinking truth comes at a cost with my traditional thinking of sorts, right? But it's a matter of saying, like, for you to fully step into your gift, it's even like, you know, meeting the Queen of Swords. It's like there's a feminine aspect. Like, it's like you needing to nurture your gift. You needing to nurture your gift means bringing it into your reality and trusting that it is going to bring about like the riches, the abundance, the you know, it is gonna, like, your spiritual pursuits are actually gonna sort you out in the world. Like, you know, it's gonna pay for your bills, it's gonna provide the life that you need to have, because God, angels, guardians, ancestors, your whole team, your soul tribe, right? They know what you need, and you just have to be consistent with it and move. Even though the movement is slow at times, just trust that there is movement and it's gonna pay off over time. Wow, I really like that. That's beautiful. So, anyways, let's keep going. I think, that message came through. It felt like it was a bit dragged out, but I trust that, you know, it needed to come out in that way. As always, you know, I'm on my journey of trust. So, here we go. I mentioned we have the 10 of Swords and the 9 of Swords, and then that was crossed by the Seven of Pentacles. I mean, not Seven of Pentacles, Seven of Cups, right? But what is Seven of Pentacles? Oh, that would be like our investments, what we're looking at to reap because of the garden. Oh wow, what a nice transition into this part of the message. So remember, I was mentioning how like here today, as much as we know swords are about things of the mind, wisdom, knowledge, and so on, we're gonna really much speak about our gifts and our connection with spirit, right? So with that being connected to like now me saying Seven of Pentacles is to say we've already set a stage or a foundation with the spiritual work that we've done already, because spirit has already put us to service. We already have evidence of what happens when we are aligned with spirit, when we are in tune, when we are in flow. Like, what is that outcome? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Yeah, my right ear is going off right now. What was it? And I could feel that there was like something else trying to come through. With me even sitting here, like all of these people are like passing by, and I'm thinking about how my fear of being seen could easily stop me from doing this message. But then at the same time, I'm also realizing, like, am I gonna stop the impact? Am I gonna stop the value that this has? Because here I am in the lounge, people are like at the buffet eating. There's another guy who's on his phone, who's playing games, and everyone is just watching videos on his phone. And here I am recording content with these cards. It's like, wow, my perception or my idea of what I'm doing being taboo shouldn't like shield me or stop me from creating this content or like sharing the message or being of service, right? But then it's also, again, granted, stuff of the mind, right? And it's both things. It's like this idea in my mind about like how I'm supposed to serve, or tarot being so taboo and like, oh, it's divination, oh, like, you're doing something wrong. It's like, am I now to shun the fact that this was brought to me? It's not like I went to it, it came to me, right? And as soon as it came to me, I now went into mastery. Like, I started learning about it and started like really executing the most with it. So now how am I gonna like now shy away from being of service when I know that this is how like I'm bringing forward the messages? This is how like it's being translated in me, through me, to me. So the world will have these things, right, which is what we're needing to let go of. But then there's also the other side of it. It's like me like reading the Bible, and how they would even say in the Bible like, yo, don't do divination, don't do this, don't do that. But when I think about what this practice is, it's so much more about our growth, our evolution, our expansion, and not so much about like the darker aspects of what this tool could be used for. You know what I mean? There could be so many other things that this is used for, but if we are using it to grow, to learn and understand ourselves, and it is one of the things that has actually helped me grow and evolve, and I'm using it to also help others grow and evolve, then why view it as such a bad thing when I know the impact that it has? And here I am, even naming like the season, impact season here in Brutalistic, because I'm aware of just how much of a difference, of an impact that I want to make, not only on me but on the people who are going to find these videos, whether now or in future. So it's like, I'm not now going to gaslight myself like, oh man, I've made it this far and I'm going to let go of tarot, or I'm going to let go of a tool that is part of part of my reality that allows me to serve. But then also it's like, imagine having made it this far. Like, imagine like a bodybuilder, like you were bodybuilding for like 5 years, and then in the 6th year, because now you have changed your life in a certain way, or you weren't getting some type of like, maybe you didn't get entrance into like a bodybuilding competition, or you started dating somebody, now you stopped going to the gym, or you stopped like stopped doing the things that were in the bodybuilder lifestyle just because you were not seeing the results that you wanted. But then you remember at the like beginning or the onset was like, yo, you went into bodybuilding because you wanted to be healthier, you wanted to take care of this avatar, such that like when you navigate your life, you actually have extended life. You are better in tune and aligned with yourself because of what you have done, what you've chosen and selected for yourself. So, with that in mind, I'm just thinking like, yo, 10 of swords, 9 of swords, can we like just get out of our head sometimes? Like, stop giving ourselves reasons not to do certain things, or like put thoughts, barriers, limitations in the way, which are clearly in our own mind, which is our manifestation tool. So the moment we master our minds and our thoughts, it's the moment that we realize like, oh snap, like not everything needs to be logic based, because as much as it's logic, spirit's also coming in with the crown. So it's like this mental space of this capacity here, crown, third eye, our minds as well. It's like there's this, I would say, tug of war that's taking place of like, is it logical? But then spirit is saying go this way, whereas it doesn't make sense, but it feels like the right thing to do. So like, can we, I've been saying mental gymnastics, and there I'm using even an example about gymming, because the muscle ultimately grows when it tears. So can you kind of like tear apart that those ideas, those aneurysms, and realize that like there's more to those ideas? Because granted, it feels like a limitation, but when you start picking it apart, once you start tearing it apart, you realize like, oh shit, this is bigger. It can be bigger if you just allow it to be so. So that's where now, instead of it being a tug of war, that's where this collaboration happens, which is what we were seeing in the first draw, right? The physical and the spiritual meeting up together. I definitely also get, when you're seeing the Nine of Swords here, it's like one side of it is like the anxiousness, the concern, the worry about how things happen, when they should happen. But on the other side of that, I'm thinking about like, with great power comes great responsibility. And what I was thinking about the other day, like with great influence also comes great responsibility. It's like, imagine now having this ability to influence people, to have an ability to relay messages, to tell stories like I am right now, about human consciousness, about evolution, about our human design, about coherence, and being in tune with what this life experience is about, for those that are ready for it, of course, and then not putting it to work. Like, what is that? Like, try to make sense of not being the divine you, the one that is in your greatest and highest purpose. Like, make that make sense. It's like coming to life knowing that you could be like 10 out of 10 and half-assing it and going like 5 out of 10. Like, what is that? Like, when you know better, you start to do better. But in the doing better, which is what we are seeing, which is being crossed by, it's like, can we evaluate our options? Can we now see, how do we let this heart thing, the feeling thing, come and join in with this spiritual, mental thing? And again, look at this integration, this cohesion taking place one more time. What does it feel like? I'm thinking about like, is it something Hicks? I forgot his name, but something Hicks, and as well as like also Neville Goddard, like the manifestation guys. Like if you just Google people who are like really big on manifestation, one of the things that they speak about with manifestation is about like how you also need to have the feeling. You can like write affirmations, you can visualize it, but if you are not including the feeling aspect of it, then like certain endorphins, certain chemicals are not being released to kind of associate the feeling with that desire, with that manifestation. So now that we are at a point where we can actually see like, oh shit, like, okay, I am actually going to master the gift. I am going to master my mind. Now, what does that mastery feel like? And now we are putting it into our heart and now looking at the different pathways, because the pathway that we take is ultimately up to us. Spirit, yes, is going to orchestrate certain events, and Spirit will do more when we ask them to do more, like intervene, show me the way, reveal this, protect this, uplift this, teach this, guide this, you know what I mean? Spirit will only go as far as we're willing to go, and also communicate as far as we're willing to listen. So how do we now bridge this heart and mind? And granted, there are many options or pathways available to us, but then when you think about what is the one that's really gonna fulfill you, the one that's gonna take you from dark into the light, get you from this dark world into this door of spirit, into this area where you're no longer overthinking, right? I'm even seeing at the back of the deck, I've got like, what is it? The Thinking Woman in reverse. And I'm even getting like 8 of Cups as well here. But the Thinking Woman in reverse is like, of course, the Thinking Woman is like no longer overthinking. It's no longer about the perfectionism and how it looks or how it plays out. It's just a matter of doing it, being there, being square, be there, be square, that type of thing. 3944. Interesting. I haven't been spending a lot of time paying attention to the numbers. I've been so much more focused on like delivering the message, paying attention to my surroundings, paying attention to how I'm being used to deliver the message, with me being the examples, and then 401 or 41, and then also just how it comes across, right? And that's like the one pathway that I've decided to take, is to say, now I'm being of service, but then understanding that it's also something that I needed to work through. Like, oh, I could have associated a bad feeling to doing what I'm doing in the middle of the people, but reading a Bible, praising God, there's so many things that you could do that could offend people. Somebody could be sitting in a restaurant, like cutting their nails. Somebody could be like, of course, there are some things that are like, some people would accept, some people don't accept, but like, you get what I mean? What's hygienic to someone is unhygienic to another person. It's like, I'm flipping it around, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, what works for one demographic doesn't work for another demographic. Like, how the people in Japan are so clean, and how they handle being on trains, versus, let's say, the people in South Africa, how they litter more, and on trains they conduct themselves way differently, right? But that's what I mean, different strokes for different folks. But then when you now start to focus on what works for you, how you can save yourself, because nobody's coming to save you, it's all in your mind. Like, somebody can come in, be your coach, be your guide, be your therapist, but at the end of the day, you are by yourself. You could even have a twin brother or a twin sister. When they are not there to mirror you, when you don't have anyone to validate you outside of you or mirror you, and you're by yourself, what is it that you stand on? Who are you when nobody's actually watching? What does it feel like when you're by yourself? Can you actually sit with yourself? Are you running away from yourself, your own experience, your true thoughts, your true feelings? And I think that's, well, not I think, but that's actually what's being brought forward here with the 7 of Cups, right? It's like, dude, there are so many things that we could focus on as to what does this feel like? How do people perceive it? But it's like, what about you? If you had to just shut everyone else out and not care about what are they gonna do, what are they gonna say, what are they gonna think, and just think about you. How does it feel for you? What do you want? What do you want to feel like? What do you want to experience? What is gonna fulfill you? And just put yourself first for once. Come on. Because at the end of this, think about it. I've been going at this for 42 minutes, 40 seconds, and nobody's come here to tell me yo, dog, stop what you're doing, or hey, you're bothering us, or you're doing something wrong. And I could have this nudge or this feeling, look at that, me even scratching my nose, because we're clocking this thing. Listen, we are the only people that are going to stop ourselves from being of service. And the moment we realize that there are options and pathways available to us that we can always take, then it's just on us to take them. So, wow, man, it's so beautiful how Spirit's using me as an example in a reading. And I haven't had a reading that I've done with the collective that has resonated with me so much. All of them do, because I'm also part of the collective. But this one, goodness gracious, it feels like this is happening in real time. You know what I mean? Wow. I know you're picking up what I'm putting down. This reading feels potent, feels powerful. Again, it's because we're in our golden era again. We're doing what we do. By the way, I'm sipping on some green tea over here. Interesting brand. I've never actually done this before. I don't know if it's just here in Ethiopia or if it's in other places as well. What, Olgo or Oligo? Yo. But anyway, yo, get your drink, get your snack, and snack. We're still going in. By the way, my name is G3E, and you are on the Daily Spread series on Roots Holistic. I was about to say you're on Roots Holistic on the Daily Spread. I've been swapping those around because I realize it's like one and the same thing. I'm even thinking now, like, I called it daily spread initially because I was doing readings like every day in the first season. But now in this new season, I'm very much more like being led. So I don't know. I think in the new season, like, we gotta look at the title. Maybe not the daily spread, but like, yeah, maybe like soul medicine or something like that. Because I feel like that's what this is. Like, it's just, it's uplifting the spirit, man. It's uplifting the spirit so much, so much. But anyway, I'll give that some thought. And thank you, Spirit. 4457. Again, going with the knights, right? So 6 of Cups and Knight of Cups. So, oh man, like, how beautiful is this reading? Like, translating from like physical, spiritual integration, physical, spiritual, mind and heart, and now here we are with like full heart messages and fulfillment, right? And I'm putting like a one above, one below. So like, moving ahead with this offering comes with us recognizing that there is a blessing, there is a gift, there is an anointing that is here for us to receive. But not only is it like being given to us like via spirit, meaning that it has already like materialized, but it's also a matter of us like looking back at our past selves to say like, what can this version of you now do to honor a previous version of you? But then also like realizing or recognizing that you in this version, there's a future version of you that will appreciate you now for having done certain things. That it's like you are gifting yourself something in the future by doing something now. And I think that applies so much because with this being the last row or the last column, it's like the possible outcome, right? It's like we can do things now that are going to gift our future selves, and the future self is going to be like, oh wow, you did that, thank you for doing that. And a good example is what I spoke about earlier, about like how planting a seed years earlier, the future self is going to be thankful to the younger self. And it's that appreciation of like, oh man, thank you younger me for doing something that the future me can appreciate. But then there's also things that you can do as your older self now, in this age, in this time, in this era, because now you've healed through certain things, you've experienced certain things, you now know how to protect your peace, you know how to say no, you know how to choose yourself, and you fulfill yourself that you weren't able to do before. So now you doing that thing now like allows that younger version of you to like get that release. So like, let's say that inner child had a dream to ride a space cadet, or like ride a horse, but back then you couldn't do it because of where you lived, resources and things like that. But now you can ride horses. So when you ride horses now, you know that you are actually healing that inner child part of you in the past that couldn't do it. But now you see how it both works. Like, the future version does things that the younger version couldn't do, but the younger version can also set the stage for the future version. So that's where we are now being poised, right, or positioned, which is what was happening in the column before with these options, is to say you are not thinking only about the fulfillment now, what's going to make you feel good now, but you're thinking about like, if I continue going down this path, what is that possible outcome, and what does it lead to that is actually going to add to my story, add to my abundance, which is already here. So it's so interesting that like, we think that like we need to create certain things, but they are already there, and we are just like shifting into the frequency of where they're at. Because it's like, for example, you want money, the money that you want already exists. It's just a matter of like, how do you align with that, or how do you position yourself in such a way that you are now able to receive it. You've opened up that pathway, that channel for it to get to you, because you have now also given something, or opened up something, or availed something. You get what I mean? It's because you exchanged, you were willing to be a participant with this energy, to work with the energy in some shape or form. So like, you now working with money means that more money comes in. 4841. So with me then seeing the Knight of Cups is to say like, what are the offerings, like what are the things that we need to see that perhaps we are not seeing? And with this evaluation, with us mastering the mind and this manifestation tool, and also now integrating our spirit with our physical, we are now going to say like, oh damn, like I've actually always had this opportunity. Like, I could have started my dance studio, my Reiki studio, my painting studio ages ago, you know what I mean? And because of all the back and forth that I was doing in my mind, like thought loops, thought cycles, overthinking, I didn't do it. But now that I see that it's actually part of my journey, I'm actually gonna now take the steps towards it and see what it yields over time. Because it's not a matter of like, you just decided to do something now, it just like, happens immediately. It's a matter of saying like, yes, you've made a decision to do it, but not only is it about the destination, but like, who are you becoming through that? Because you just deciding to do something doesn't mean that you've actually changed. You need to now be tested by the universe. The universe is going to present things to you that are going to confirm and affirm, like, oh, you changed for real. Oh, you about it. Like, you didn't just decide, like, you acted on your decision and you stuck to it. So I think that's something that's very important, and as a reminder to say, even once you've made a decision to change or to plant something, to do something new or different, now you need to live by it. To feel good is to feel God, and I'm living by it. That's a lyric that I have in one of the songs that I've written or recorded actually. Oh, that one's also recorded. But it's like, now you need to embody what it is that you're saying that you are, or what it is that you want to become. It's now like, you are the example, you are the poster child of that thing. So it's like all the ascended masters, Jesus, Commune, Muhammad, all of these people, right? They are just examples of, who's that one I learned about on Diwali? It's that young boy, man. Ish. Guys, edit in the comments. I forgot what his name is, but that boy who took like a pilgrimage around India and stuff like that. All of these different people, right? These ascended masters are people who are setting examples of what a spiritual life is like, that we are ultimately coming back to self, coming back to source, to essence, to coherence. And that's now what is being presented to us, is to say that we are going to live by what saved us, live by the same faith that saved us, but then now live in faith, live through faith, live by faith. You know what I mean? Like, so you apply that to you. So if you were saved by tattoos, now you become the greatest tattoo artist you could ever have been, because now you understand that that's your way of serving. Somebody like Bible, Jesus, like with scripture, like a priest, they were saved by the word. Now they live by the word and they teach the word and apply that as necessary. Same thing, like I can use myself with the music. So hip hop saved my life, Lupe Fiasco. And then I make my own music, and then I can now teach other people how to make music, or like create like a music studio for people to come and have a space for that thing, or experience that creativity, that channel to be like exalted. You feel me? So yeah, just apply that to you in your own way. But anyway, going into the advice 5221, and then I just saw 22, and we have a number 2 over here as well. This is the action, guys. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of wands here, 10 of wands as well as the 2 of wands. We need to drop what is not ours, man. But then also, I think it's also speaking to the hard work and the persistence. I'm thinking of it being like 10 of wands, being like at the end of the suit of wands. It's like typically in the Rider-Waite deck, it's like you're seeing somebody like carrying 10 wands and it's like walking towards this building. It's like you are at the last stretch. I think a lot of us in the collective are very close to starting to see more fruits of our labor. And I mean, that's further expanded upon by this 8 of wands at the back of the deck, right? Where it's like our hard work is being recognized, but we are also being asked to continue putting in the work. So, I mean, in between the 8 of wands and the 10 of wands, which would have been the 9 of wands. So it's like, yeah, wounded warrior, battered and bruised. But then it's like, don't quit when you're so close. Don't quit when you've worked so hard to get to this point, because again, your younger self did so many things to get you to this point. I'm even thinking now about like how I include chakras and colors and stuff in my readings, and like the first time I even learned about chakras, I didn't even know that like I was gonna end up doing something like this with that information. So it's like all of these things were like building up, amalgamating, just to like create this greater structure or knowledge base experience for you to act off of or from, right? And if you need to like explore a different pathway, a different option, know that you are not starting from nothing. You are starting from experience, because you have not lost what you've gained on the other paths. And I like to use the example of like a GPS, where we have our divine purpose and our divine destiny, and we can follow it or go in all of these other different directions. But whether we go straight to it or we are taking these detours, God, angels, universe, guardians, ancestors, whoever we acknowledge, right, is like guiding us back to that, course correcting us. But even on those paths, they are teaching us things that we were supposed to learn on that journey regardless. But it just comes through in a different way because of our level of awareness, our level of consciousness. So it's like, oh, Spirit is like testing to see like, oh, this is what you want to do. But then when I tested you, you weren't like ready to align with that decision. So now, because this is where you are, I need to like meet you here and teach you at that level so that you can elevate and like come up. And I actually like love that so much because like Spirit is going to meet us where we are. Even when I pray, like for myself, my enemies, people who are coming against me, colleagues, friends, whoever they may be in my life or not in my life, I just pray that God meets people where they are. Because if I know better and I'm doing better, there are some people. Okay, it's almost time for me to dippy to go get my supper time. Let's go to the other lounge. I mean, if I'm in one lounge, right, and I have this understanding of what my reality is like, I must also be aware that other people are in other realities. They have set up their own tools, their own surroundings, their own amenities in a certain way that serves that level of, or that version of who they are at that time. So I ask God to say like, yo, God, whether it's somebody who's good for me or somebody who's not, meet them where they are so that, you know what, they can maybe meet me where I'm at some point. And sometimes maybe not, because with me just being the example, with me embodying, which is what I think we're all being asked or called to do, sometimes that's all we need to do. You just being the best you just existing, you just being in your energy, inspires people, riles people up, upsets people, inspires people, inspires, like it uplifts, it encourages them. Some people will come to you to want to learn, and others would want to just shut you down. And I'm also being reminded that, you know, there's that saying of like, if you're not upsetting people, if you don't have haters, you're not doing anything, right? Listen, I've got haters, I've got fuck tons of them, I'll tell you that. And now whenever like somebody does come at me, you know, with whatever they're gonna come at me with, as much as they're coming at me with swords, like, you know, because they're trying to poke, you know, they're trying to stab and kill, set traps, set bait. But I made it through because God is great. Like, yo, there's no other way to explain this. 5648, you know. But I understand that like my level of awareness now is so great that I can understand that other people are even in their own realities. And that's actually what's happening here, is to say like, you know, people will maybe even want you to like carry their burdens, right? Because if you take this 10 of wands upright or even in the reverse, you are like about to, you know, see that, you know, there's going to be like fruits of your labor, and you're almost at the place where you need to go into able to drop your own burdens. But sometimes we carry things that are not even for us to carry, sometimes willingly, like we take on other people's things. But then here's that word that was like conduit that was coming to me now, like you being delegated to like do things for someone else. Ooh, goodness gracious, I am burping. But like, while that might be the case, right, where people want to give you their own things, use you as like the one who's going to do their spiritual work, their physical work, and their growth and all of those things, even thinking for them and stuff like that, you now need to go back to the drawing board and be like, actually, how do I actually want to use my energy? I understand my energy is not for everyone. I have an energetic budget, and I'm going to allocate it accordingly. What I view or deem as passionate to me, and what it is that I want to push, pursue, drive for, like what is it really, truly? And let's just go back to the drawing board, and not, again, like I was saying, starting in a new path or starting from zero is, again, it's not actually starting from zero, it's starting with experience, because now you have an understanding of what the previous reality was, and now you understand that you appreciating that old reality doesn't change anything, because all it was doing was closing the door to value. But now you understand that, oh, because now I see what that world was like, now I can go and create something else, a different world, knowing that that's something that you're trying to avoid. Because sometimes we don't always know what we like, but then we are presented with situations where we're going to learn what we don't like, and then it's like, oh, because I don't want that, I definitely want something different. I don't know what the different is, but I know I don't want that. So that's the part of the learning, that's the part of the process. Yeah. Wow. I think this was dope. Thank you all so much for being here with me, spending this time with me. Much love, much light. And yeah, let it be great, gang. Let it be great. Peace and love. Yeah, yeah.